welcome back. This is Two Coaches, One Grizz. I'm Frank Morales with my esteemed coach emeritus, Gil Laura, the Grizz, Mario Mejia, and our esteemed producer, Ace. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Fantastic. Glad to be here as always. Blessed. Great week. Great weekend. Yesterday was a phenomenal day for trades.
Feeling yourself?
No, man, it was a good week. Good week for trades. Yes, yesterday was trade deadline came by and a lot of action going on. World Series.
We got a lot of activity that just that went crazy yesterday. Got to get on that right now.
Yeah, so let's jump right into it. NFL trade deadline 2022. Fireworks, right? To say the least. There are years where we don't necessarily see any activity at all. But this trade deadline, wow, movement abound. Grizz, we'd like to start with you. What was your surprise trade or impact trade that you saw from this year's trade deadline?
I'm gonna keep it right at home. I mean, picking up Chubbs from the Broncos and picking up Wilson. Sorry, Chase. Glad to know you. It was nice, but you got to catch balls here. And I love bringing in Wilson. He was expendable because McCaffrey was sent over there. But yet again, as Moser was a Niner back, so is this gentleman who was coached by McDaniels. So I see him immediately coming into this team and paying dividends. And we needed a pass rush. We needed a guy that right now he's finally come into his own. And with the lack of our cornerbacks and safeties is right now hurting. We need the pass rush. And if you come to think of it, the trade that we did with the Niners for Lance ends up being Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Chubbs. I mean,
no, I think that and it's funny, I was hearing something this morning about that, and I think that in and of itself, I think Grimes wanted to make sure that he solidifies himself as the GM,
of course,
here, and what he does, his actions,
making moves and showing that they're gonna be aggressive,
and separates himself from the Flores fiasco and all those things going on. And
plus, I also one more thing. I think do these trades now. If you think Tua's your man, you do it when the quarterback is on his rookie contract, where you're able to pay because they're gonna pay the Chubbs. They're gonna sign him long term, and they're saying now. We believe and we're going now to get this done.
I do believe that even though Tua is on his rookie contract, I don't think his second contract will be as expensive as many other quarterbacks out there. Because again, since he's had a rocky 3 years out of 5, I still think they'll have some wiggle room once this rookie contract is up. But as I said, I think that Greer wants to go ahead and separate himself from Flores, show Flores. Because remember, Tua was a tug of war between the GM and between the head coach.
Flores did not want him.
Head coach didn't like him, and all of a sudden
GM wanted him.
Correct.
And that's who won out.
So now he won out, and they want to make sure that he surrounds them with the pieces so they can be successful and that the kid can play.
So one point that I want to kind of argue here that you brought up is that they have some wiggle room in his contract that's coming up. Well, he's on his 3rd year, right? There's still a lot of time left for him to, increase that potential deal, right? Because we don't know this year is still, it's not finished. It's still not being done written. If he takes them, wins a game in the playoffs, right? That is definitely progress being made. And when he's been there, they're undefeated when he's on the field, right? And then he's got a whole nother year to play out. Now, usually what they do with their quarterbacks that they want to keep long term is they sign them on that 4th year so they don't get to that 5th year option. I think that's what happens with Tua next year at some point.
Right. But what I'm trying to say is I don't think that he'll have the leverage to break the bank as we've seen with other quarterbacks.
Right, Mahomes
that has had,
correct.
Again, 3 spectacular seasons going into the 4th, 2 Super Bowl appearances, etc. All of a sudden you can sit at the table and say, hey, all right, buddy, let's go back up the truck.
Yeah.
And let me get some flow.
I'll be waiting. You have my agent's number.
Exactly.
In worst case, I think you could tag him.
Right. And again, so I said,
I think you got to see him healthy for a few years to.
Those are things that, again, I think that at the bargaining table, those are all things that work in the Dolphins' advantage. And again, And the reason I say that is you also want to make sure you sign him to a friendly contract because you're going to have to sign a couple of those guys again.
For sure.
You want to keep those guys in their prime, and you want to maintain all the weapons around them.
Right. So, not to veer off topic, we can talk about that a little bit more in the next segment. But yes, I agree with all those points. I've never really understood why, and I get that it's about the guaranteed money, but I never really understood why there hasn't been more incentive-laden contracts in the NFL, especially with the fact that, there's always a possibility that they're not going to live out the life of that contract.
Players don't want that.
Of course.
You can always, at some point, take the guy out when he's getting close to it. Oh, this happened. You don't want to get to that point. They want their money up front.
For sure. That's what I'm saying. They want their guaranteed.
Your career is almost over in a blink of an eye.
Right. No, I know that they want their guaranteed money. But we digress. We'll have time to continue that conversation later on. 3 trades that popped out to me, obviously aside from the Bradley Chubb trade. Chase Claypool to the Bears. I really like that trade for Justin Fields, right? I feel like now they're starting to say, okay, we got ourselves something here. Let's put something around them to help him out, right? Bears have never really been nice. I like it. Bears have never really been that type of team, right? They haven't had a real quarterback, a franchise quarterback since Sid Luckman,
Sir, I'm sorry. McMahon
you win a Super Bowl,
McMahon was a leader in that team. He was a stud, and he was tough until he started getting hurt. But I love that guy. And he really embodied Chicago football.
That's the epitome of get off my lawn there, right there.
Yeah.
However, they are not known for their prowess at the position.
Correct.
Yeah. Next one, TJ Hawkinson. I feel like there's not enough people are talking about that trade. Like, that is a marquee tight end that is just buried in the doldrums that is the Detroit Lions. Like that. I think
my only issue.
There's a
with
coming
that,
out party for him in Minnesota.
But my only issue with that is he's going to an offense that the scheme or the system doesn't really use the tight ends as much. Because don't forget, the head coach there now is a McVay protege. He comes from the Rams. He's a guy that they don't throw the ball to the tight end. They don't use him as much. Higbee will have one great game, and then he won't catch another ball for 4 games. So again, yes, he could be. It would be phenomenal. That would be good. However, I don't know if he will get to where you think he's going to get.
I don't know, Coach.
I think you're seeing it too big.
Right, but why are they trading for him if they're not going to use him? Is the counterpoint there?
Because again, don't forget.
Down a tight end.
No,
Their
Irv
tight
Smith
end
is
got
hurt. He's hurt.
Yeah.
Correct. He's out for it. Right,
They're down
exactly.
a tight end.
Correct. They're down a tight end. He's out for the next 10 weeks, and he might be done as far as being a Minnesota Viking. And Hawkinson does block. He's one of the better blocking tight ends.
That's what I'm saying.
And they got a good running
back.
back.
This is an in-division trade, too.
Right.
So,
right.
I don't think the Lions are just gift wrapping. Listen, I got him on a team. I hope his numbers go up. However, what Gil's saying is true.
He's a complete tight end. He's not a George Kittle, right?
No, again,
I'm saying is, what he's saying is correctly is he might have a game. He might have a great game. He might not have a catch for 2 games. This is what I'm saying. Like, he's going to be a luxury, which is good. You can't say no to talent. You're adding talent. That's good.
And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next pick, which I thought was, again, even though he's not going to play this season, I thought for what they traded for, the Jaguars got a steal with Ridley.
That's true.
I think that what they gave up, he's a guy that you're going to see week in and week out making a difference on that offense, especially a Doug Peterson offense, and you give more weapons to your young quarterback, back to what we were talking about earlier, and you surround him with good personnel. Etienne is starting to really fill into that running back role and be an every down back. So now you get another guy. Again, they're shot for this year. Pretty much as far as their record and stuff like that, they're not going to make much more noise. So again, he gives up a little bit of trade capital for a good receiver that is really going to change the numbers there.
But nonetheless, another team that's made progress, and you see growth there from their young quarterback, right? And their running back is back healthy, that they also spent a first-round pick on, right? Because they had 2 first-round picks that year.
Healthy enough to trade the other running back.
Correct. The other trade that I wanted to bring up was the Roquan Smith trade to the Baltimore Ravens. Roquan Smith, top 5 linebacker in the NFL right now. Again, you can see that the Bears, right? There's a changing of the guard, right? Historically, traditionally, there's a Midwest team that plays defense, right? They are, right, monsters of the Midway. They are a defensive team. You can see them trying to change the culture there and lean on the quarterback for the first time and develop a quarterback, because it's really hard to do. There's really hard to do two things at once: win and develop a quarterback.
He did not fit into Eberflus's defense. Don't forget, the head coach there is a defense coordinator. He runs the defense. He does his stuff. He is a defensive-minded coach. That guy did not fit into what they were doing, because you don't get rid of that talent if the guy fits into what you're doing in your scheme-wise. Don't forget, he sat out the first 2 games. He said he wasn't going to play. He asked for a trade, et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
and then he changed his mind.
I think it has.
And he played some more.
I think it has more to do with that, though, that he's due his money, right, as one of the top players in the NFL, and they're not going to pay him because they're going to allocate resources elsewhere. They're getting younger, and he's. You're not
going to pay someone that doesn't fit your system anyway.
I understand that,
so
but
it works out. If they get a good pick,
you're talking about allocating money to someone
Correct.
who is their prime is shortening. So, yeah, they're going to get picks for him, especially if he's going to leave next year, right? That's what they're doing. They're trying to get.
But he's not that old. He's 20. He should be about 27, 28.
Once again, you're right. The guy who doesn't fit your system, you get rid of him.
He's disgruntled. He's not happy.
I still think they're never going to turn into just an offensive-laden team. Chicago, the way you play to your surroundings, your city. That place, you need a grimy defense. You need a better offense. That's the problem. They will never be It's like the Steelers. You're always going to get that type of play from the Steelers. That from there. I think the Bears are the same, but they need offense. Getting Claypool was major.
Yeah, that was huge.
That's a huge play. So that's good because I like Fields. He's got a chance.
Again, if they continue to run the offense the way they've been running it, moving around, moving them out of the pocket, and things like that, yes.
Because right now, what have we seen? Like this last game, offense kind of wasn't a problem. Their defense is not up to par right now.
So that's
they need to fix that.
Now, do I think it was a great trade for Baltimore? Yes,
Correct.
I think Baltimore picked up a great player, someone who impacts their defense right now, okay, and someone that can be there for the next 3 or 4 years. Until he gets into his early 30s.
They're in the lead in the division. They're trying to make their move. I think you mentioned this guy off air, Hines, for the Bills.
Yes, correct.
God, the Bills are just loading up on talent too, man. It's scary.
Now,
here's this guy I think is going to be.
Let's not forget the wonderful KC Chiefs picked up Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
That if that kid could get healthy, he could be another.
Here's my thing with Hines, right? Like, we've spoken about this in the past on the show, right? We've kind of analyzed it, broken down from every angle, pretty much that we possibly can. Nyheim Hines is out of the backfield, passing back. He's known more for his receiving skills, whereas the Bills need a bona fide 3-down back, which I know Singletary does a decent job. He's had a pretty solid season to this point, but is Nyheim Hines the answer there?
Well, at the moment, I believe it is, because I think that Moss was not giving them what they wanted. And I think the young man from Georgia is being slow in picking up the nuances of the offense. I think that's why they brought in Hines, because Singletary's starting to play well. He is really the lead back. Yeah. And now they can bring in Hines, who's a veteran.
And he's a great receiving back.
He could be your third down back.
Yeah.
And wait while the rookie gets better and understands what is out there so he can move forwards.
Listen, at the end of the day, right, this is all conjecture because we don't know how it's going to end up hashing out for all these teams. They look great on paper. We got to see what the product looks like on the field. So a lot of these trades, there's some that are plug and play now. There's others that it takes them a while because they have to learn the offense or learn the system. Somebody like a Bradley Chubb, it's, hey, man, put your hand in the dirt and let's rock.
That's why the Dolphins picked up 2 guys that they start right now.
A linebacker, Roquan Smith, phenomenal pickup. Is he a plug and play right now guy? Right, like that's a transition into
right. But that's a guy that you can again. He's a down guy, third down guy.
Right.
We'll bring him in. We're gonna do different things, and he works out well. Again, I just thought it was a great day
action,
of trades.
of action,
It's been the last couple of weeks have been very busy.
This is the biggest trade day since I think 1990 that has been on trade day, the most amount of trades. And everybody we've talked about pretty much, especially from the AFC, you got from Buffalo, Tennessee, Kansas City, Baltimore, New York, Dolphins, and Chargers right now. Playoffs start, those are your teams. So, you're in position. These teams are trying to make their moves.
100%.
Crazy.
Listen, let's go ahead and jump right into this past weeks of games and the action that was there on the field. Okay, Coach, we're gonna start right with you. What was your reactions from this past weekend and your best game of the week?
I mean, for me, one of the top games of the week was the Cowboys against the Bears. I think the Cowboys, Dak needed to show that they could score and they could do things that they had not been doing without Dak, especially scoring in the 40s, controlling the football. I think Pollard, to be honest with you, established himself as a starting running back.
As the dude, right? I agree.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. He's averaging over 5 yards a carry. The kids, now that's an every down back, as you were mentioning. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. You can split him out. He can run between the tackles. He is a complete running back. And again, I think Zeke needs to take a back seat, and they may have to move off of Zeke.
See, here's my thing with Pollard,
But I don't think
right?
anybody's gonna take him.
What's even more impressive with Pollard is that the dude was a receiver in college, right? And he does it with efficiency. He had 14 carries for 131 yards. Like that, Zeke, on the flip side, was one of those rhythm backs, gets better as the game goes along, pound it, right? He needed a steady diet. This guy is not one of those guys.
He's a slasher. He is a slasher. He's going to move, and he's going to move the ball downfield. He scored 3 touchdowns. I mean, again, I really think that he gives that offense a different flair. And it helps Dak as well, coming along with the thumb, being able to really...
Yeah, get into his own, especially against the Bears, right? Like, this was a confidence game for them. However way you see it, going against the Bears, right? They obviously are the more talented and more experienced team across the board, okay? But at the end of the day, you kind of need those games sometimes, right?
Well,
to get back on it.
The Bears did a good job of hanging in there early. They put up some points in the first half.
Competitive, right?
They fought it out. But again, Dallas was able to impose themselves, pull away, and be the team that they're supposed to be.
Yep, no, I totally agree there. And, obviously I'm a Giants fan, so, you
can only agree so much.
I objectively, yes. Subjectively, I need to see them drop another game or two here before the stretch happens. Grizz, let's jump into it. Your game of the week from this past weekend.
Well, we had a few more key games that I thought I'd be talking about, but they kind of didn't do it for me. I'm gonna keep going back to the hometown well, and the Dolphins comeback of the Lions. 14-0 down to the Lions, not looking good. You're like, is this the start again? Is this what we're doing? Then I quickly was reminded, no. I just saw a couple weeks ago, Mr. Tua bring us back against the Ravens. This is cake. No problem. Didn't look good in the first half, but once again, the defense is coming up right now. Like the injuries we just talked about, I was not happy with making Jared Goff look like Tom Brady in that first half. But everything came back to normal in the second half. Shut out, as I thought would happen. And Tua, 29 for 36, 382, 3 touchdowns, no picks, a QBR of 92.8. I don't know, man. This guy doesn't look good to me, some people say. But all I know, the guy keeps winning. And that's my number one stat. Winning games that you start and finish. He's 5-0. And that's what we talked about before. I think it's what's propelling this team to make those kind of moves. They feel they got their quarterback in line. They got talent. We're talking about this is a video game. I mean, as I said, watching the game with my friends, this is a video game. We're watching a Madden game with Tyreek Hill and Waddle.
And Jalen Waddle. It's insane.
This is absurd. They are leading in the first 8 games in the history of the league, the tandem with the most yards in the history. Tyreek is on pace.
Well, right
Even
now,
at 17 games,
he's
16.
He's leading the NFL in yards.
Yards, 970.
Over 200 yards to the nearest
he's
guy.
had 4.
Number 2 has 200 yards less than he does.
Tyreek has 4 games of over 160 yards. He's possibly going to break 2,000 for the first time in the history of the league, which I think Calvin has it at like 1960, the record. I mean, it's absurd. I mean, but then again...
Actually, I think Jerry Rice did it once.
No, the record is 1960.
1960?
Yeah, 1962 maybe. But there's never been a 2,000 receiving yards.
And I think Calvin Johnson did that on an 0-16 team too. That was like crazy.
Probably
insane.
not the 0-16 team.
It was pretty close to that.
I think they won a few games during that year, but he did it with this Detroit Lions team. You're correct.
But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to piggyback off of you. Like, you have two receivers; they're both over 100 yards. Like 8 catches for Waddle, 12 for Tyreek, and it's not as not as much downfield. Like, hey, get them in space and let them do their work, because that's all you need from these guys. You slip one tackle and it's a wrap.
And our offensive line is not built for long distance protection. We do not give Tua that much time to throw the football. It's got to be get it out of his hands quick, get it downfield. And again, I think McDaniel's doing a great job of playing to Tua's strengths, playing to the strengths of the team in general. So and that's why I think that they're being so successful.
I agree with you for the most part, and I think I brought this up on our, fantasy chat with our friends. It looks great now. I'm not even knocking them. They're playing to their strengths. The guy is an offensive savant in McDaniel's. But you play in a division with the rest of the teams are northern teams in outdoor stadiums. When it starts to get ugly, do you have that back that's going to get you those dirty yards, right? And, in inclement weather, when the RPOs aren't, as open and as smooth, can you guys get the dirty yards on the ground in between the tackles?
It's going to be the two-headed monster of Wilson and Mostert. We're going to see if we can get it done. But once again, this RPO game is a small version of a running game. And cold or not, I still want to see Tyreek Hill catch that ball, and let's see if you can catch him in the snow. Let's see. I'm curious.
We'll see.
Offensive line, I don't think our offensive line is built. And it's just, and now I'm going to be honest with you, that's one of Buffalo's problems. Buffalo is not built to, and they're getting better this year. Because last game, I thought Singletary did a great job of running the ball, but again, it was against Green Bay, and Green Bay's D-line sucks. They're terrible against the run. So we'll see as they progress.
So we go back to my lovely Giants. Played the Seahawks this weekend. Okay, Seahawks beat them 27-13. Okay, we're not gonna talk about the Giants. I think
Midnight struck.
I think the story of the game here.
The pumpkin. No.
I think the story of the game here is Geno Smith. And how he's righted that ship, and how he's proven himself to be a leader in that locker room.
I think the story here is Pete Carroll, 70-year-old Pete Carroll, who everybody said is too old. We need to move on off of him. He's shot. He's this, he's that. He's rebuilt that defense. That defense is balling out. They're wilding out. He took a chance, like you said, on Geno Smith, and Geno's paying off huge dividends. The running game is there. I think the passing game is there, and playing in Seattle will always be tough.
This is going to remind me a little bit. There's a better talented quarterback, but Michael Vick, when he came back from jail, played with the Eagles. What are we going to get from him? And he had that good season. Listen, I still think Geno Smith not that great of a quarterback. He's having his renaissance year. Amen. I don't think it's going to be a catapult for continuous Pro Bowl runs.
For 6 years?
No, I don't think so. Might have another year. It does help. He does have good weapons. And when you get the weapons and a great coach like Pete Carroll, he's been in the system. The games that they have played, they are sort of like the Giants. They also, where's their pumpkin going to fall at one point? But they've played good enough, and luckily 2 of the teams in their division have regressed. Right. And, they play the Niners tough. So,
well, here's my thing. I think it's all about intangibles for him. Like, if you watch the game, there was a perfect throw to Lockett. Lockett drops it for a gimme touchdown, and he runs over there, grabs him, he looks from there, he's like, I'm coming right back to you. And he did it.
The double move for the touchdown.
The leadership is there, right? And Lockett even says so in the post game. It's really nice when you have a team right, that is more worried about the team success than individual success. And it was a not so indirect shot at the dude down in Denver right now.
The guy doing jumping jacks on the plane.
Correct. And doing, lunges and, watching film for 5 hours and whatever craziness he said in that video. Like, you can see that. It's like they took off the anvil off of their chest, and now they're kind of playing free.
Right.
On the flip side, the Giants, this shows, and we've known this for a while, they need help in their receiving core. Like, that's a move that they should have made during the trade deadline. I don't know if I guess they're tight against the cap, and they were, they didn't have really much to give to get in return. But guess who's out there and getting healthy soon?
OBJ.
Mr. OBJ. Who hasn't made it a secret that he wouldn't mind getting back, to New York. There are options out there that can help them. So let's see what happens.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know if that is the best option, but we'll see. Again, I think there's a rebuilding year. I don't think that Dable's going to lose sight of that. And we'll see how they decide to build.
See,
it.
this is not, I think, like, in the sense the Dolphins, where they're trying to make that move. The Giants didn't think they'd be, I think, 6-2 at this point. They still, like I said, I think they're going to be enough to make the playoffs because the NFC's putrid. It's not that good. So I think they'll make the playoffs and run it with them, but I think they're going to just ride it with who they got and keep it going. I still think they had a chance to win in the game.
Speaking of, let's jump to this week's slate of games. And what is our game to watch here? Coach, what are you thinking for this week? Side note, you said that the NFC is putrid, but the NFC East, there's probably going to be 3 teams that are going to make the playoffs, and that's ridiculous.
That's what makes the NFC even more putrid.
Right? No, I'm saying
because
it's
the
ridiculous.
NFC East has been the weakest division of all the divisions.
Yeah, and it's just flipped on its head.
A decade.
Yeah, and it's flipped on its head.
And you even got the Commanders that are back at 500.
Yeah, it's insane.
Both the AFC East and the NFC East, only 2 divisions with all 4 teams at 500 or better.
Insane. Sir.
I mean, this week is really not a huge week as far as marquee games go. I mean, I guess I'll mention the Rams and the Bucks. We need to see which team gets a direction or finds direction, because both of them seem lost. I do think that maybe the Buccaneers defense is able to do something a little more than the Rams defense is, because as bad as the Tampa Bay offensive line is, the Rams offensive line is even worse. They're missing parts. Guys are hurt. They can't run the football at all. So, to me, that's a game there. We need to see which of those 2 teams starts to move in the right or trend in the right direction at the midway point of the season. Because that's where we're at now. We're at the midway point, and now's the time where if they want to make a run to a wild card, either one, right now their divisions are wide open.
I mean, you're still lucky if you're the Buccaneers. And the Atlanta Falcons of all the teams probably would have been the worst team in the NFL this year, if not top 3 worst, are leading this division. Once again, putrid.
And speaking of a renaissance here, right? You got their quarterback that's doing all right,
Marcus Mariota.
Being backup for a couple years there, and
that game. I mean, we didn't talk about that game, but that game just was insane.
Crazy ending.
Just keep your helmet on at the end of the game.
Please, yes, keep your helmet on at the end of the game. There's rules.
Don't give yourself a 48-yard. I mean, just
extra point.
Sometimes these are the things that I'm not even a coach. I can only imagine what goes through your heads.
But I want to, sir, that's on the weekly in high school football.
I know, but I'm just saying, since you're a coach and you see that, I mean, I'm just a guy that just had nothing on the line on that game. I'm just common sense. I did
because I had taken them on a teaser. I had taken the Panthers on a teaser, and I'm looking at the game.
There's nothing to tease about the Panthers or Falcons,
I see him score, and I'm like, okay, and then I go, oh, no. I knew immediately. I go, oh, it's a 50-yard extra point. This is ridiculous. I can't take off his helmet.
I do find it funny that you get flagged for that. Whenever a defense makes a fumble or an interception, they're able to go take a group photo with the entire team on the sideline. There's just... I don't get it sometimes. That's when the NFL stands for no fun league. I know the rule, and I'm upset he does it, but I'm still like.
But can I tell you that he
just got a 60-yard touchdown.
But technically, and again I've been listening and back and forth on it. The rule states that you can take it off once you leave the field of play.
Correct.
He had walked out the back of the end zone.
Correct.
And taken it off.
He
started popping it in the end zone, but he didn't take it off until he got out of the end zone.
Right.
So it really should not have been a penalty.
But regardless, he just caught an amazing pass
with no time.
That he should have not had a chance at making. But no, a little flag. Okay.
To circle back, I can speak for my former right-hand man here that we've had these conversations on the sideline. Like, is it like that you can write this in a movie? Because that type of ridiculousness happens
again
at the lower levels.
It's an
all the time. You're
exuberant situation.
Grizz, your game of the week.
My game of the week, I was looking at the Bills and Jets. I don't want to talk about those teams. They suck. I hate them. But I will talk about. That's my personal preference. I can say that. However, I do look at the Chiefs and Titans.
This is why we have to stay on script, sir, because that was my game. Continue. I'm sorry.
It just goes to show you pout a lot.
Sure.
You know what? Sometimes this is
complain.
Little one-on-one, even 101. I'm not a radio guy. Don't say it. Just take the Bills and Jets next time. I'm going to go with Titans and Chiefs because these Titans, they're doing it again. They started slow, and all of a sudden I looked, they're 5-2. What is this? I don't get it. The Titans, go away. They're so boring.
It's because when you have a freight train back there, it takes a while to get the momentum going. And once you get it going, it's hard to stop them, baby.
Listen, Mr. Shanauer knows exactly what happened because I rode that train all over his little white cracker booty this weekend and took him downtown. However, I don't like them. I just don't like them. I want the Chiefs to make an example of this team. They're playing Sunday night.
We're all over the Titans plus 12.5, baby.
I know that you are, Gil.
Taking them 12.5.
This is going to be something bloody. I mean, they are going to put. I expect 6 touchdown passes from Mahomes. I expect just grossness. This team is about to start its liftoff. I don't say that also because he is a starter in one of my fantasies. I say that because I just believe Kelsey, the rest of the team. Is Tony going to play?
No,
no.
He's still
even better.
He's still
more for Kelsey in the group. But I just think it's going to be bad.
See, okay, so here's me, right, being on the flip side of it, playing devil's advocate, so we can have a conversation here. You don't get into a track meet with world-class sprinters, right? You're going to box them out and grind it out on them. And that's what the Titans are going to do, right? This is a perfect dichotomy of two mindsets and philosophies of football. The Chiefs are going to try to turn it into a track meet, okay? But what do you need for that? What do you need to be firing on all cylinders when you got fire? You got to get into a rhythm, right? You have to have the ball. You have to sustain drives.
Correct.
And what are the Titans going to do? Right? They're going to play keep away. Yep. They're going to play ball possession. They're going to do ball possession there. Okay? They're going to grind it out. Right, they're gonna lengthen the game on the ground.
No, sir, they're gonna shorten the game.
Shorten the game.
They're gonna shorten the game.
Shorten the game on the ground. Thank you. Okay, and they're gonna give it to the freight train that's in the backfield because that defense, yes, it's solid. Okay, but they ain't a come downhill defense. They're a cover in space defense. So let's see what happens.
I also think Tannehill comes back. I just think 12.5 points is just too many points.
Yeah,
I do think they win by 10.
No, you at least know a double-digit loss is coming to them. However, I still think it's going to be 25 minimum. You're talking about I know the KC lost. I see this 27-3 last year to the Titans. They don't forget that. They're gonna 24-25 minimum. We beat you by one more. Guarantee that.
Yeah, and the thing is with Kansas City, it's
42-17. Just put it there.
They're like the Golden State Warriors, right? Like, oh, it's a close game in the first half. Watch the third quarter. You know what I'm saying? That's where they come out. And it's just lights out, and you're like, you blink. You're like, what happened?
Remember, they played in the AFC Championship a couple years ago, down 10-0. They were getting freight trained, and then put on the pedals.
Right.
I think it's time for KC to start doing that right now because they have to. They know they have to win games to keep up with Buffalo. They lost to Buffalo. They got to keep up with them. I just think KC's going to put the pedal to the metal.
Grizz, and I think, Coach, you agree here too. We all know what the inevitability is. Unless some craziness happens that, somebody has the game of their life in the playoffs, it's crash course, collision of the Bills and KC for the AFC Championship this year.
Obviously, hopefully, it's not like last year where they didn't line up correctly.
Right.
Because you had a team like Tennessee get in the way. So let's get them out of the way. 1 seed, 2 seed, Bills and Chiefs, so you can have your little AFC Championship game. That's why we need to start with Tennessee and put them out. Let's go.
Heard. All right, circling back to the NFC East and talking about the Commanders here. All right, with all of the negativity coming out of Washington, D.C. about the Commanders organization and Dan Snyder and how he runs it, okay? And all of this hearsay about his blackmail, his trove of blackmail on all the other owners in the NFL. And now comes to light that Snyder and his wife have hired, okay, a financial institution to investigate selling the team amid all of the allegations and investigations.
Correct.
So, what is your hot take thoughts on this situation?
There isn't a hot take. I think that he needed to get out. Nobody wants to build a stadium with him. No one wants to allow him to do so. There's also rumors that the federal government is going to investigate the Commanders' finances. There's just a lot of heat. And he needs to get out of the kitchen. He needs to get out of there, move on, make his money, and sail off on his yacht and enjoy his time off.
Yeah, so there's a lot of going into that with the government going into it because the allegations are that they've been hiding profits that were slated to be revenue sharing, right? And obviously by the CBA and other federal laws, antitrust rules, that's illegal, right? You have to revenue share, right? You are part of the NFL. You are a franchise of the NFL. You are one when it comes to that.
Well, that's the idea behind their plans and stuff like that. They revenue share so no one loses money.
Correct.
No matter how bad your team is. And he himself has enjoyed revenue sharing.
100%.
Considering how bad the Washington Redskins have been. And he's been able to ride Jerry Jones' coattails, selling all those jerseys and all the things that Dallas does, and
the lack of,
et cetera, et cetera.
Right, the lack of support from the fan base and the city and the surrounding area to get a new stadium. When you talk to fans from DC, right, they say it, and you hear it all the time. They're not going to allow it until Snyder's gone, right? They don't want this guy who's come in and ruined their historically great franchise, right? And allow him to continue to reap the benefits of those roads, because that money would be coming from them. Part of that money would be coming from them to build that new stadium, right? It would be coming out of their tax money that would impose a lien on Washington D.C. and the greater DMV area. You can sidestep the allegations of misogyny and all that stuff as he said, she said, and we can get this. But the one thing that you cannot sidestep are the finances.
Can't touch that money, huh?
When it comes to, at the end of the day, and you know this as a former coach, you can get away with a lot of stuff. The first thing you're going to get fired for is when you mess with the money. That's the bottom line. You can go 0-10. You're going to get fired first for missing money before the record. I think it's been a long time coming, right? This has been in the news, in and out for the better part of 20 years, of the way that he handles the organization and the players and, workplace, the organization, the culture.
And the phrase in and out is a good phrase to use when talking about Mr. Snyder.
Sir, we're going to move on amicably. It's a family show.
Just trying to say.
Grizz, what are your thoughts here?
I thought it was eventually going to happen. He said, I'm never going to change the team's name. Hey, the team name got changed. Pressure. It's called pressure. It's called get out while you can. And he's going to end up making buco bucks. So, I mean,
there was no scenario.
There's no losing.
Right. There was no scenario here where he doesn't make, a boatload of money. But as
his reputation's going to get a hit. Whoa.
Right, but as we can attest here, right?
Wipe it off with $1 billion.
These billionaires who own these teams don't get there without at least an air of narcissism and being control freaks and being, just mentally different.
The majority of these owners have so many bodies buried that we don't know about in scenarios of all types of things. Because to be a billionaire, you got to make some deals that might be questionable in life.
And my point is you have...
He's just a dirtbag. Don't be a dirtbag.
Right. But my point to that is it's a pride issue for them, right? Like this is like they're
how much
the
of
fact that they own these organizations is
like. But you know how much of a dirtbag you must be that other owners are gonna put you out like that,
especially the guy whose all of his dirt is out in the open to see.
At the end of the day,
and Ursay just popped a couple pills.
All those guys worked.
No big deal.
Some alcohol.
All those guys worked for their franchises. Their businesses were able to produce the money for them to buy those franchises. So yes, of course, part of it is going to be ego because that's my franchise. I bought it. I paid for it. I sweat for it. It is what I did. No one gave it to me. I had to go out there and pay hard cash for it. So it is understandable. And it's not anything that should not be. Again, that is the world of the NFL. It is what it is. But now that Snyder has crossed that line, come back, cross the line again, it goes without saying.
And we're past the third strike already at this point.
And he needs to go.
Now, that being said, Grizz, you done? You look a little pensive here. You good? All right, solid. I think this closes out our NFL section for this week. We're going to be right back with some NCAA football talk. And we're back with Two Coaches, One Grizz in our NCAA football segment. All right, right now we're going to jump straight into the college football playoff rankings, which came out last night. First rankings of the seasons. Gentlemen, what is your initial thoughts here?
Well, Grizz and I were talking earlier. I'm not going to lie. I am a little peeved with the whole Clemson situation. I don't think Clemson deserves to be there. I don't think Clemson is the number 4 team in the country. I think that the other teams are more deserving. I think a Michigan team is more deserving to be there. I even think Alabama, losing to Tennessee, is more deserving. I think that they're basing too many things on their history of winning games. Because they haven't won a national championship in 5 years? 4 years? Okay. They really have not been very dominant this season. I don't think they were dominant last year. They didn't establish themselves as a dominant program. So again, I have my contention with that. Whereas a Michigan team has, over the last 2 years, really put themselves in a position to be considered one of the top 4 in the country. Alabama's Alabama. They lost to Tennessee in a super high-scoring game with Tennessee. Again, that's like 2 coaches on the board. Whoever has the pen last is gonna win. So, like I said, that's my only contention. I think Tennessee being up there, I think it's a little bit of a slight to Georgia, and I think that's gonna come out this weekend. But we'll talk about that later.
I think they got it right, except for the Clemson one as well. Only Michigan, I think, is the one with the gripe. I don't think it's that big for Alabama. Once again, the SEC teams will get themselves in themselves. Michigan, Ohio State, winner right there. I think it's more just theater. The Tennessee, I think, deserves it because their schedule, I think, has been a little tougher than Georgia's, and they did beat Alabama as their signature win compared to Oregon, which even though Oregon is high at the beginning, we didn't think that win was as big, and now it's coming back that Oregon is probably that good of a team. Just maybe playing first game on the road at Georgia's not the way to go. Once again, I think it's all going to get played out. I like that this is how we should get our rankings because the AP, the coaches, it shouldn't be until 5, 6, 7 games where you get to see how the teams are playing, and then you go here. Because like I said, I can see the whole season, the way Tennessee's played, I think they deserve it. But I don't know. I think the only other thing that I see here, TCU might have a gripe. They're 8-0. They've played really, really well. The Big 12, I think, I could say the Big 12 is probably tougher than the ACC. So, if you want to go there. Other than that, so far so good.
I'm going to agree with the Tennessee being number 1. All right, they've proved it on the field. They've had a tough strength of schedule, like Grizz brought up. I'm going to advocate for the way that the rankings came out this week for this reason. They're playing the calculus, right? They have Ohio State at number 2. Ohio State and Michigan State inevitably will see each other at the end of the season, right? And that's going to hash itself out. I think that's why Michigan's at 5, right? Because I think that's a flip-flop there, right? It's going to end up being, whoever wins jumps in, whoever loses bounces out of the top 4. I think that's what they're setting it up, and that's what they've done, right? If you look back at how they've done it in past years, that's what they do. They set up the teams that are going to see each other at the end of the season.
But I do think that theory right there makes a one-loss Ohio State or one-loss Michigan team potentially out of the top 4. They don't have a chance to get back in.
Right.
And I don't agree with that, because I do think that a one-loss of one of those two teams with one loss being to each other, again, they're both great football teams.
Well, unfortunately, that's what they have to go off of, right? What happens on the field, especially if you have an undefeated Clemson at the end of the year, and you have a one-loss Michigan or Ohio State, and the other one's undefeated, right? They're good. One of them is inevitably going to be out.
But again, what argument could Clemson possibly have to be ranked high just because they're undefeated? The strength of schedule alone. The Big Ten is much tougher.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
No,
I'm
trying to say, I understand how that falls. I understand with an Alabama and a Georgia right now, right? Because they go to the SEC championship game, Alabama wins. They got one loss. They both can get in. Georgia wins. Oh, Alabama has 2 losses. Guess what, Bama? You're done. Have a great day. You are now putting those two teams in a position where they lose to each other, and that's it. They're screwed. Again, I think that sucks.
Well, what about, all right, so let's bring this up. You have Alabama, you have Georgia, you have Tennessee there. That's going to hash itself out eventually. And let's say Alabama plays Georgia, Alabama knocks off Georgia. Now you have Georgia with 1 loss, but then Georgia plays Tennessee, right? And then now they all have 1 loss. So you see a scenario where all 3 of those are in?
They could. They may, because of strength of schedule.
If it ends up being Alabama wins out and they beat, I would say it's easier if it's Georgia that beats Tennessee, loses to Alabama, is the more chance you get all 3 in. Because you have Alabama is the SEC champion. Tennessee will have beaten the SEC champion. Their only loss is at Georgia. That's
strength of schedule.
That's a great strength of schedule.
That's strength of schedule.
Georgia's 1 loss against Alabama in
the SEC championship.
I'm just saying.
I'm merely
so then you have that.
Right.
Then no matter what Michigan or Ohio State's claim to 1 losses, right?
Correct.
It wouldn't be as good. So then you would have 3 SEC, 1 Big Ten. Then you got an undefeated Clemson that could be like, what's going on? An undefeated TCU that's like, hey, what's going on over here?
If TCU, correct.
Oregon goes on a wrecking ball and they win the rest. Hey, we lost by a lot, but it was the first game against Georgia.
I
know. But this is why the 12-game playoff is going to be such a blessing.
Right.
Because they're all in.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Because, listen, 9 through 1 have they have a case to be made.
I'm going to say this, however, because every year when these things come out, it doesn't look like it could possibly happen. It looks like all these teams are either going to be undefeated or 1 loss. And I know there's some games that's easy, it's cakewalk. There's going to be chaos like every year.
100%.
It's LSU plays Alabama. We're going to talk about that now.
Hence why I kind of set that little bomb and let
Alabama
you guys
might lose right now. You're out. Michigan has to play an Illinois team that all of a sudden wasn't going to be a good team this year. Now top 15 team. It's just Clemson's playing at Notre Dame, what Notre Dame's going to show up. It's just, who knows? Teams, you know how hard it is to go undefeated? That's why a lot of teams don't do it. But at this point, it looks like it's going to be turmoil. Oh my God, what's going on? I think, as always, chaos comes into order. I think reasonably, we can expect 2 teams from the SEC. I think that's a very
Agreed.
reasonable, since we've had it already a bunch of times. And you're going to have definitely the Michigan, Ohio State probably. And then, like I said, I'm kind of rooting for TCU. They roll it. That's a scary team.
All right, well, we're going to jump into this weekend's action. All right. Well, let's turn this back a little bit and talk about last week's. But what we're talking about this week with the rankings, it's going to hash itself out here. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about last weekend's action, okay, in NCAA. Anything that jumped out at you guys that you guys saw that was interesting with last weekend's slate of games? Side note, Georgia, yeah, Florida, sit down. Good night. Gomez, bye-bye.
No, there were a couple of good games. That one in itself, Georgia and Florida. I think Georgia came out, established who they are, what they can do.
Should have been worse for Florida, but they came back. They made it look interesting.
Tennessee did a phenomenal job of just blanking Kentucky. I thought Kentucky could put up a little bit more of a fight, and no way, Jose.
Nope.
TCU battled, and again, it's just one of those situations. Notre Dame knocked Syracuse off and established themselves again. Yep. Defense and rushing. I think the head coach there has put himself in a good position going forward, as they had such a rocky beginning. They had such a rocky start that they were already calling for him to get fired and things of that nature early on.
Yeah, so what I want to bring up, right, because we talked about it last week and you guys were all over me about it. Penn State, right, played Ohio State tough. It was only a 14 or 13-point loss.
Do you understand? They scored 21 points in a 27-second span.
Sir.
They were up by 22 at one point.
Sir, they kept it close.
No, they did not keep it close. They had a good close.
It's a mirage.
They kept it close, okay, in the first half.
It's a mirage.
Then all of a sudden, this Tuiasosopo wannabe, okay? I mean, this kid went he went ham.
Yeah.
He created a turnover. He had a turnover, a pick six to the house. He blocked. I mean, he was just unbelievable.
Homie had a day.
No, listen. Wow.
He had a day.
What a baller. What a baller.
He had a day.
I mean, he embodied Palomalu. I mean, he just...
That's like when
with the hair and all. It was
That's
crazy.
like when a baseball player gets all the home run hit. He got them all.
No,
he hit for the cycle when it comes to his defensive.
And yes, one of our mutual friends was on Penn State and was all happy the first, and then all of a sudden, it's like,
it's reality,
wow,
man.
Really? This is incredible. And they got a backdoor cover at the end. They scored the touchdown to keep it within 2 scores. But no, there was a time there where they were down by 22-23.
But that was in the fourth quarter.
No,
Okay,
it was a good game. It was a good game. Like I said, at the beginning, they had a good game.
They were up 14-13 at the half.
Yes.
Gentlemen.
Yes.
So
they had 4 touchdowns in the span of 6 minutes.
And then
in
reality
the fourth quarter.
came home.
Listen, you can't predict when somebody goes Super Saiyan. I mean, what do you want me to tell you?
No, you can't.
Now, jump into some more serious issues here over the past weekend. Michigan played their in-state rival, Michigan State. Okay, game was pretty much in hand the entire way, 29-7. Michigan dominated. They have that phenomenal running game, but the news of that game came afterwards with the brawl that occurred in the big house in that tunnel. With both teams in the big house, there's one tunnel that both teams walk through to get from the stadium to the locker room and vice versa. And a Michigan player was attacked by multiple members of the Michigan State team. As Jim Harbaugh said, right, an apology is not going to be enough here, right? He is looking for a protracted investigation, right, where consequences need to be handed down because they look at it as criminal charges, right? And he wants criminal charges to be handed down. Gentlemen, just what are your initial thoughts on this? I'm sure that there's going to be more information that comes to light in the next week or so. But they've already suspended, 7 players?
Yes.
7, I believe, 7 or 8.
Yes.
And, who knows where this rolls out. Suspensions, players kicked off the team, criminal charges. I mean, a lapse in judgment that's going to follow these gentlemen around for the rest of their lives.
Again, and we say it in our end of the business. We say it all the time. and we got to keep our emotions in check. We tell our kids to keep their emotions in check. And those are all things that are highly important, especially when we're playing this game of football. Why? Because there is physicality in it. Your emotions are running high. You're in the field of play. You just finished losing to your in-state rival, the biggest rivalry you have, and all of a sudden, as you're in the locker room, on your way to the locker room, one of the other players comes in, says something stupid, does something stupid, and boom, we blow it. That's a problem. That's an issue. That's something that needs to be addressed. And yes, sadly, these guys might lose their scholarships. They might be suspended for some time. Might get kicked out of school. I don't know how it's gonna go and how it's gonna relate. But you can't have that. You just cannot have that at any level of football.
I echo that. You should never jump one person. You shouldn't fight one person against another person. Let the guy talk his stuff. You lost, salty. You won the year before, dominating this team. You had won a few years in a row. You lost the game. It's over. However, I stress this a lot. I, as someone, would never walk into a tunnel with a bunch of grown men and it's just myself. And then take it upon myself to say a few things to escalate. Because I'm young. I want to say a few things. It's rivalry games. And then all it takes is probably one guy. He didn't wake up well that day. He probably missed a few tackles. He started, and as always, mob mentality. They just went after him. And you should not have to even get to this point. I don't think it'll end up being criminally charged. I think that's right now, he's upset. Harbaugh's upset. They'll do the investigation. I think they're going to end up losing their scholarships, probably losing. You'll see a bunch of transfers to other schools. But, it's something that it's not a good look. Shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a stain on the program, right? Especially when it garners national attention to an already, nationally,
But this happened a couple weeks ago in the Penn State game with Michigan, so they're having some issues. There was something smaller, a little fight that happened.
Well,
in the tunnel. That should have been already a little. Hey, let's just put a few more.
There
guards
always
in there.
is some drawing in there. I don't think anybody was going to realize that was going to happen there after the game when they should have been in the locker room.
The smart thing sometimes is to prepare for things that usually don't happen. That's how things are averted. We always are here after the fact saying what could have been done to prevent this. Maybe have a few more extra guards. It's one tunnel. I don't know why they've done it, but it's been doing it for however number of years, and I don't think it's the only place that has one tunnel where it's shared.
No, there's multiple places that have one tunnel.
So
we see that happen all the time where the kids get hyped, the teams get hyped in the tunnel.
But so, like I said, the road team is going to go first. You just won a game. All your teammates are celebrating, doing their team songs.
Do the pee-pee dance if you have to, but don't run in.
Don't run in. You can take helmets off there. It's over the game.
While the other team is still there.
But sometimes you walk into, like I said, would you purposely walk into a room full of lions for no reason if you had the choice of waiting? Let them go.
As I said off air, I have a feeling, okay, and again, playing the other side of it, I feel as though I don't think that guy knew that many dudes was there.
No, okay, well, okay.
And that's all I'm saying.
Let's give you that argument.
I don't think he would be that stupid either.
Let's give you that argument. I don't think
he would be that stupid either.
So if he's not that stupid,
let's give you that argument. The guy walks in, he turns a corner, and he sees the guys. You turn around and go right back outside. Because if you go in, you're outnumbered. If you keep going in, you're outnumbered.
What I do want to say on that part also is, it wasn't like there was nobody there. Like, there were a lot of guards and coaches and everything there.
Nobody stopped anything.
Again.
So that's the grind. Yeah. Go after those people.
I turned the corner.
The guy filming it. Why are you filming it? Go get him.
Oops. So. Not that way. I got to go back the other way. And I turn around and go back the other way.
Everything that was just said, if my buddy would have not gone in the tunnel and danced with maybe a few girls in the crowd, we'd be cool.
We wouldn't be talking about this right now.
We'd be cool.
moving along to this week's slate of games. I got super excited there at the beginning of the segment to talk about this and the rankings and how it's going to be hashed out this weekend. Tennessee, number 1 ranked Tennessee, will be playing Georgia at Georgia. Okay? So we're going to get some clarity here, and you're going to see, I think, a shuffle in the rankings next week. What are your thoughts on that game? I'm super excited.
Lay the points, take Georgia. Lay the points, take Georgia.
Wow.
Everybody and their mother is
Snap
taking
reaction.
Tennessee. Once again, I'm going to fade Tennessee. This week, they're at Georgia. It's a whole different ballgame.
What's the spread?
8 points, sir.
Georgia is an 8-point favorite,
Yes, sir.
and you're taking Georgia to win.
Yes,
that game.
I am.
By double digits, they should win.
Sir?
At least 9.
Sir, I believe they will cover the spread.
All right. I believe moneyline Tennessee all day. Go talk to your
We're going to
mother.
put that one in there with the Green Bay one,
You know it.
and we're going to put that one in there with Washington State as well.
There you go. Remember, I switched on those, sir. I went
I get
for
you.
money
I
line.
get you, but
This
you,
is no switch.
but you
this
still
is outright
You still like Green Bay money line.
correct.
But I'm going to tell you again. This one right
But
here.
guess what?
They're not playing in rock. They're not going to be playing Rocky Top.
You're absolutely
and they're
right.
going to be tap
No,
dancing
you're absolutely
with their
right.
cowboy boots on. Okay, they're going to be in the Georgia doghouse.
But this team has receivers not like the Green Bay team.
Oh,
that
it's
I
okay.
picked.
And you know, and let me tell you something else. That game against Alabama does Kirby Smart and that Georgia team wonders. Being able to have that film,
Absolutely.
being able to see what they did, being able to dissect that, I think changes the game completely. Completely.
I hope it's not the team that went up to play Missouri. That's all I know.
That's okay.
I'm going to. Wow, this is a tough one. I feel, right, that Tennessee has a head of steam.
Hey, baby.
Okay,
That's what we like to
that
hear.
they're, you know, they have confidence. There's wind under their sails. They're gonna go into Georgia confident. Georgia has played some close games this year, even though they are undefeated. It's been underwhelming. I don't know if that's the right term. Their wins this year against certain opponents that you would think that they would usually blow out. The other side of that coin.
They've been bored.
The other side of that
Last week
coin.
they weren't bored.
The other side of that coin is: does this wake up the sleeping giant?
Tennessee's number 1. Just remember that. Just remember when you go out there on that field today that Tennessee is number 1. Not you. You're the defending national champ, but you are not number 1.
The only
Tennessee
thing
is.
that helped Georgia was that, though.
Guy-
That they were
he
giving
just
the number
channeled
1
his
rank.
inner Lou Holtz when
Let's
he
go,
used to
baby.
do those.
No, because I would have thought it like
But I'm a volunteer this
I would
year.
have said. I would have
I'm
said.
riding
Don't
with my
forget
Tennessee.
that you-
Hell, their mascot
That was
dog
great.
is my dog's name, Smokey. I can't ride with anybody else. Let's go, volunteers.
It's going to be a lights out game.
But there's another game
It is.
that we were talking about earlier
is.
in the same conference. LSU, Alabama. Alabama on the road. Let's see. Let's see if Mr. Kelly can get his Southern Bells to work for this game.
Wow. Listen, LSU has built some momentum. You can never count them out when they're playing Bama in Death Valley.
Night game.
Strange things have happened there over the years in this rivalry.
Yeah, I may do a favorites parlay this week.
This is wow. I might take LSU,
There you
right?
go, baby.
But not money line, right?
No, you take the points. Take the
I
points.
think it's points, and I think it's close, and that's me. And I'm not a bettor. I don't bet on sports.
Listen again. I go back to the line opened at -13, and it's gone up to 13.5, and 60% of the bets are on LSU. So that line move tells you that the sharps, the big money, is on Alabama. Okay, the line moved in Tennessee from 8.5 to 8, and 75% of the bets are on Tennessee. So again, that tells you that line freeze, that non-movement of the line, the big money players are on Georgia. They're fading Tennessee once again. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna always try to be on the sharp side. I'm not a sharp. God knows I'm not a sharp. Probably one of the dullest tools in the shed. But
A plastic butter knife.
yeah, pretty much. However, I try to follow those guys, and I do think that both these teams win convincingly.
staying in the SEC and a former dominant team that we were used to talking about, right? In this same light, Auburn in the doldrums. They just fired their head coach Harsin, and there's a crazy stat out there that in the last 600 or so days, they've paid out over $37 million in buyout fees, which has been over $500,000 per day.
The guy over at UCF got fired. His buyout was sweet.
I just gave you the numbers. That's insane.
Brian Harsin. And again, he had such a difficult time there. I don't know what it was. He came over from Boise with such a good record, doing such a good job, and for whatever reason, I fell flat on his face. I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Coach, remember, it's different recruiting in the Midwest and the West, right? Because Boise State recruited the Pacific Coast, right? It's a different animal when you're recruiting Southern athletes.
I understand.
Right? And you're competing that. I don't think that he was necessarily prepared to compete with the rest of the big dogs there.
Well, I mean, then that's why.
And that's on him with putting together a staff.
That's why then you got to take your hat off to Kelly. Because Coach Kelly has been in 4 different time zones. And he's been able to recruit and win in all 4.
Again, but that's a credit to the staff you're able to put together, right? I don't think that he was done justice in that respect, right? There's a lot of great coaches out there that it doesn't necessarily come together because the pieces don't end up committing. Right? It's a different story when you get a Kelly from a national powerhouse where
but
he's
he wasn't
exposed.
But don't forget, he started at Central Michigan, Cincinnati.
No, I'm saying at Notre Dame, he's been at Notre Dame for the past decade.
Right, but
and Notre Dame recruits nationally, so he had the lay of the land.
But before he got there, he was at Cincinnati.
He went from
recruited at Cincinnati and
to Notre Dame.
Moved Cincinnati up, where now Luke Fickell took over, and he has maintained it. And that's what I'm trying to say.
No, I hear you. That's what I'm saying. It's an advantage.
Right? What I'm saying is that's why I give credit to Coach Kelly, that he's been able to be at 4 different areas and done so well recruiting. Because you go from a Notre Dame that's super high academically to an LSU, and like you said, now he's got me and my family. He's trying to blend in.
Yeah, this guy Harsin was supposed to be able to go from Boise State and then do it in Auburn.
Correct.
Doesn't work. Sometimes you're just not a fit. And maybe he's just not a fit for the SEC.
Yeah, he might have to go back west. I mean, he may have to go out west.
He probably will find something out west, and he'll be fine.
Yeah.
I personally want to just say that I think Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, hopefully gets...
You heard it here first.
Hopefully gets at least asked if he's interested, because I would love to see those Aflac commercials will be even better if he has to go up against Tricky Diggy.
No, that would definitely be... and we said this off air, right? Like, I'm not sure if that's a move that he would make at the end of the day. I see where you're going because you had stated about
he's
that
not
he
going to
has
stay
coaches.
in Jackson State for the rest of his life. It's not about that. And he said it. It's not about... See, he's not an Eddie Robinson, and he's going to stay there as a lifer.
Right.
He's just not. He's there for the moment. And I watch this guy's Instagrams. I watch a lot of Deion Sanders. He's in it for the moment. And he's just created something where he leaves, whoever comes in is going to be fine. And these guys now we can go after big recruits. They're not scared to go after the number 1 guys like he went after the top recruit, right?
Well, my point with that is I think he wants to see them get to the mountaintop or, be ranked or, get them to that next tier.
That's never going to happen. I don't think they'll ever be ranked. And to your point, I think that when he leaves, he's going to take a lot of the nil with him, which is going to hurt.
But whoever comes in, what I'm saying is, eventually, there's options.
But I'm saying I don't think
Alabama's.
Right? No, but I'm saying I don't think they'll ever be able to get the number 1 recruit again in the top 5.
They might get another guy that's flashy or stuff like that. However, that's why.
I think the cachet goes with him.
His assistant coaches are making nothing, and they have families and stuff like that. He has to take care of his people. And the only way to do that is to upgrade, move up, where people will be paid. And you don't think that this is a challenge for that guy to go?
No, of course. If he gets the opportunity.
To a Power 5, to an Auburn.
If he gets the opportunity to go to Auburn.
He's going to recruit.
If he has the opportunity to go to Auburn, he's going to take that. I'm pretty sure he'll take it. Just because, number 1, you have instant credibility.
And another thing,
with the games you're going to play.
I think he's only staying because his kids are in Jackson State too. So once the
Starting
kids are gone,
kid's a stud.
He is a stud. But what I'm saying is, once they're gone,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It's more, I think, that he gave it a couple years there. He infused into those schools something that they haven't had. And now, it's like, hey, that guy is great. He needs, even people that want him there say, this guy's gone. He's got to go. He's that kind of a bird. It's got to be free.
Talking about him moving on and places he could go, this weekend we got the Florida State Seminoles coming to the Hard Rock.
I'm there for the pregame festivities.
He should have been hired there a couple years ago. They should have saw the future. But, yeah, I mean, this week is going to be hopefully just a fun time. Tailgating, enjoy the first half. I don't think the second half of this game is going to be anything fun to write home about. And if we do win, it'll be because it's Florida State. They're not that good. And the rivalry games, nothing can be – you can't explain what these games bring out.
And that's what I was going to say now. I do think that we will put up a good fight. I think the underdog in this game has always put up a good fight.
They always put up a fight.
It's always been a good game. It's always been back and forth. Miami is a 7.5 point underdog.
It is a rarity. There have been blowouts and shutouts.
Correct.
There are rare.
But I don't think either one of these teams is set
they're not
up
built for that. No.
for correct. So I really do think it'll be an entertaining game. I don't know how it'll turn out.
The only way we win.
But Jake did prove one thing last week, that TVD is much better than him, and he's not the guy right now.
And Van Dyke's coming back?
We don't know.
What do we know? We don't know yet?
That's still in the
Honestly,
pocket.
I think the only way we really win this game, we need turnovers. We need it to be that kind of game where we're ball hawks and we get fumbles, turnovers, picks, whatever it takes. But I'm not coming in ready.
Well, let's have some fun this weekend, fellas. That's what it's all about, right? And if we get the dub,
No, it's not. It's about winning.
and if
Let's
we get
not
the
lie.
and if we get the dub,
Let's not lie.
then it'll be that much sweeter.
No, it's not. It's not about. It's about winning. Let's not lie.
On that note, speaking of winning, I want to hear what your deep dive.
So we had another solid week last week.
Is it the deepest of dives?
So it's deep enough.
Wait, but let's tease it.
Well,
How deep is the dive?
It's pretty good. We got some overs and unders as well.
All right.
Got some windy unders.
We'll be right back to close out the show with Coach Gill's deep dive. As is the case at this time of year, we do have to make some highlights of the other major sports that are starting up and or finishing off, right? So with that being said, NBA, we got some news coming out of Brooklyn. Steve Nash is out, and Ime Udoka is the top candidate, who was famously and
Who's been suspended. Who is currently suspended as the Boston Celtics head coach for improprieties within the office.
yeah, what's it called? Pooping where you eat, so to speak.
I guess.
So,
I wouldn't call it
Grizz,
that,
take
babe.
it away.
I think it'll be a great move so he could work, one. Two, I believe he coached Simmons when he was with the Sixers. He's coached with Brooklyn before. He's a really good coach, and he needs to be back on the sidelines. I don't know what happened in Boston.
So you want me to fill you in?
I know.
Would you like? Would you like us? Oh, there's filling all right.
I thought we discussed this.
Hold on a second.
There's a lot of filling
You guys
there.
take apparently things a little too literal. I do know. What happened? If you guys want to go further into it, because that's what you like to do, dive into that.
No.
I already know.
Well, we can
thought you
go.
were
I already
confused.
know.
I thought
I
you were-
already know what's
Clear.
happening there. It's called just talking off the cuffs.
Got it.
However, be a great coach for them. I mean, I would love to see him change Kyrie, because Kyrie is what we like to say in Spanish, a come piña. I'm sorry. I'm going to say that very loudly. He is an idiot. I can't stand that guy. He doesn't even know like how to argue his point. Thinks he's the smartest guy in the room when he's really the dumbest guy, I think.
Yeah.
So good luck with that. Your power team with Durant and all that. However, I think this would be a very good. Nash, unfortunately, was over his head. He was never going to be a good coach. I just think players that are that great end up not becoming, the coach. It's usually the backup point guard. It's usually the guy that didn't have as much time ends up being that guy. But yeah, I mean, the Nets are just a joke. Just a joke. I mean, you should be running that town. The Knicks are a joke, and you decide to let's one up the Knicks. How are you one up in the Dolan Knicks? You guys are terrible.
Tell us how you really feel.
No, I just did.
With that being said, I also want to jump into the World Series, right? Phillies with a huge win over the Houston Astros last night. They went off on McCullers.
They went ham.
And after that Bryce Harper home run, it was lights out for the Phillies. And they even said it on air, and everybody in the world knew it, that McCullers was tipping his pitches. And it was clear as day because it was glorified batting practice.
5 home runs, 7-0. They're leading the series 2-1 right now. They're playing game 3 at 0-0. I'm sorry, game 4 and it's 0-0. We'll see how things end up.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I'm pulling for the Phillies here because it couldn't have happened to a better team last night. Just parenthetically speaking, like it's ridiculous that they're even here, and there's been no ramifications for that team, and I will die on that mountain.
What are you talking about?
Let's go,
Sir.
Stros.
Let's move
Finish
on.
these Phillies
So
off.
I'm still a
Let's
little
move on,
poopy.
sir. Let's
We're
move on.
moving on to the
Let's move
deepest
on.
Phillies.
Let's
of
move on.
dives.
Let's
Get
move
out
on.
of
Deep dive. Coach
Let's move
Gill.
on. All right, like I said last week, we had a pretty solid week. We started off this week. We put a little play out there for you guys on Monday. Gave you Cleveland plus 3.5. We did a small tease yesterday. Didn't work out. We're headed into Marshall minus 2.5. We've got Houston and SMU under 67. We're taking a really, really dirty play. We're going to take Navy plus 20 against Cincinnati.
What?
Yeah.
It should.
Yeah. We think the Mississippi can keep it within 20. The line's already moved in our favor. We're also going with BYU plus 7.5. They're playing Boise. I do feel that this is one of those good rivalry games. I think BYU is going to get up for this game, and I think they keep it within a touchdown. We're taking Louisiana Lafayette plus 6 against Troy. My numbers have it at 1. This line's kind of crazy. It opened up at like 2.5, went up to 6, back down to 4.5. So, but we feel that they're at home. Should be a good one. We talked about Georgia minus 8 already. And we got 4 straight unders here. We're going with the Ohio State Northwestern under 60.5. Yes, sir.
Interesting.
Kentucky and Missouri under 42.5. Iowa and Purdue under 42. Maryland and Wisconsin under 52. And Michigan State and Illinois under 42. All these games, the wind is blowing at more than 50 miles an hour for the game. There's a system that's, we call it the windy under system. I learned it from a guy that I follow, a guy who bought the book. His name was Josh Applebaum. Anytime the wind is over 12 miles an hour, the unders hit at about a 60% rate. These unders are over 15. I mean, these winds are over 15. So I think the unders look good. Some of them have moved already in our favor.
Look at you factoring science.
Hey, we work on everything, buddy. Ohio State's under is already at 58. So, and the last play of the night is we're taking Pittsburgh minus 3.5 against Syracuse. We have an unranked favorite playing a ranked opponent. Syracuse is ranked in the low 20s, or I'm sorry, mid 20s, early 20s, and Pittsburgh is not ranked. They're favored. They're minus 3.5. The line's at some places moving to 4. So again, that's one of our favorite plays of the week.
Very interesting here, and why do you think? Because they're playing at home, right?
Well,
it's a rivalry game.
To be honest with you, it's the same thing we have when UCLA played Oregon. Vegas has Pittsburgh favored over them. They just came off of Syracuse has come off of back-to-back really tough weeks. They played a really tough Clemson defense. They got battered and bruised last week by Notre Dame. So they're kind of limping in here to Pittsburgh.
Understood. No, it's definitely. I mean, it's definitely interesting, especially that they're ranked and they're giving them that much. And what's the spread there?
3.5. Pittsburgh is unranked and they're laying 3.5.
Very interesting.
And it's moving to 4.
Chris, we got ourselves a parlay.
I already told you, Tennessee and LSU money line.
That's it.
And
What else you want?
We're probably going the other way. We're probably gonna do a parlay ourselves with the other 2 teams.
All seriousness, go with the spread to cover for those 2. That's a fact. I personally think they're both gonna win.
Very interesting. I'm all over Tennessee. I know that you're going the opposite way and running for the hills.
I want to hear Joe Public all over Tennessee.
Gentlemen, I think that does it for us. I can't close out the show without naming.
Give me one more. Just to mention, there's a little MMA this weekend. They got some good fights. Nothing I've got any money on, but the main event is Lemos against Rodriguez, 2 women. Mariana Rodriguez is one of my favorite fighters. It should be a slobber knocker. That should be a great fight.
Good stuff. All right, we covered all our bases in sports. I think that does it for us for this evening. Can't end the show without talking about our 2 favorite sponsors, Prodigy Coaches, K-12 tutoring. Get at them for all your tutoring needs. ProdigyCoaches.com. And we can't end the show without General Carnitas Gourmet Meats. Okay? Get all of your meats for tailgating. And we're at that time of the year, right? It's getting nice outside where we could grill on a Sunday for NFL. All of your meat selections, GeneralCarnitas.com. Gentlemen, episode 50, okay?
We've reached the 50 mark, guys.
We have reached the 50 mark.
5-0.
So congratulations to you, gentlemen.
I've been at 5-0 for a while now, but at 5-0, we're at 5-0. We're at the big 50, baby.
Can't state it enough. It's been a blast doing this week in and week out. It's been nothing but fun. It's, we're consistent.
It's been interesting trying to carry you through all these shows, but it's okay. We'll continue.
Oh, wow.
We keep
really?
going.
Oh, because I'm not carrying you.
Hey, here we go.
We'll move forward.
Well, we'll celebrate your 50th show like in about 7 or 8 shows when you get to your 50th.
Oh, that's right, because you've missed a few shows.
I missed one show, ladies and
Busy
gentlemen.
busy coach.
Missed one show, ladies and gentlemen. Do not let this misinformation fool you. I've missed
It's
one
actually
show.
been 3. It's actually been 3.
All right.
Anywho, everybody have a good night. 2 coaches, 1 Grizz. Out.